definitely as Christians, we should be engaged in prayer. We should be engaged in support. We have families out there that are hurting, crying, missing their loved ones. But I think the thing that kind of bothered me the most was really turning this to what I think is, again, a political conversation of, because the young lady was transgender. Talk show where we're kicking it and having fun on inspirational radio. Real talk show, kicking it and having fun. So turn your radio up. Yes. A lot of stuff to talk about. Very interesting week. Some sad things, definitely, but an opportunity for us as Christians to really represent God's heart and to really, see about people and represent who God, is. So definitely want to talk today. There's a lot of good, a lot of things happening in politics. And so I was telling Sonia that I'm going to, do something a little different because I want to drive home a point, right? As Christians, and this is my belief. So I'm going to just say this. This is my belief. I ain't going to speak for LaSonia. I'll let LaSonia speak for herself. But I believe that, as Christians, we have to, be careful about mixing, politics with our Christianity. What I mean by that, like, politics to me usually breaks down, I think, to like a personal preference, to some of the things that, you care about the most, whether you're Republican, whether you're Democrat, I think both are liberal or what's some other,
you got
some other groups out there.
Independent. They got independent parties. I think it's Democrat, Republican, liberal, independent. I think it's goes like that. Yeah.
For me, I have a hard time when we take our Christianity and we try to, tie that into politics because it's really difficult. I think I shared this story before on one of our previous shows. Growing up in high school, there was a point where I actually wanted to be in politics. I actually went to a summer camp that was a political summer camp. It was a exercise to help us, experience what politics is really like. So, we had the executive branch, the legislature branch, the judicial branch. I was part of the Senate. And when I saw like all the little backdoor deals you had to do to try to, get your bill, passed and across, even at that time, and I think I was like 16, 17 years old, it didn't feel right to me. Like I felt like I would have to compromise, a lot of what I really believe and what I stand for. And so, we're going to talk a little bit about that, I think, more in detail as this show goes on. But, politics to me, it's really, I think it's hard. I mean, I'm not going to say there's not Christians or people who are believers that are in politics. I just think it's really hard when you're in politics to really, be able to hold on to a lot of what you believe. So with that in mind, whenever I'm getting ready to talk about politics and not, what God says about something, I'm going to put this hat on just so I'm talking politics, my politics or what I believe. And then I'll take it back off when I'm saying something that I believe that God is sharing about, whatever topic we're talking about. So,
I like that. So you can differentiate. This is me, Shelton.
Yeah.
And this is me talking about what I think about the word. Okay, so now we know. Shelton, that's just about politics. In my heart, if people had their convictions and they would not get them skewed and they would really believe what they believe, if we really followed the word, we would be okay in politics. The problem is we don't follow the word. And so everybody has their own agenda and their own ideas. Because when you get in politics, no matter who you are, the way you brought up, the way you believe, it has something inside of you that's going to keep you a certain way. But when you're surrounded by people who are doing everything that goes against what you're used to, that's when we have a big problem. And I think it's been overtaken with so many agendas and because I don't know where it went wrong or if it started wrong or whatever, but however we got here today, it's almost as if everybody that gets into it, it's almost the norm. If you're not willing to give up your soul, your life, your give up everything to do politics, it's as if, it's like, oh man, you don't have any morals, so to speak. I'm not saying that everybody that runs politics don't have morals. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it's definitely, like you say, very difficult to hang on to what you hang on to because it got polluted somewhere. But I think if we were true to how we felt about what we felt and got more Christian people involved in politics, and I'm not talking about just the word Christian, but in their heart, like they lived it, they really were convicted by it, and their life was rooted and grounded in the word, I think we would do better as a nation, as a country. But I don't think we're rooted and grounded in the word. So when you take on whatever attributes you have, who you are comes to that platform. And I think somewhere along the way, the people who are rooted and grounded, they don't like running. What they do like you, they get in there and they say, oh man, I got to do what? Oh no, you know what? I'm going to let that go. I'm going to figure out something else to do with my life. And that's what it feels like. So that's my take on that, like what you were saying about being able to hang on to who you really are and do politics.
I agree. I think when we, so let me give you an example. This was probably like the aha moment for me. We were tasked with coming up with a bill, right? And a lot like what we see happening, today in government, right? So someone presents a bill, someone presents a law that they'd like to see, introduced into, legislation. And but what I found is, for me to get enough votes to pass a bill, that means I have to talk to someone else. And normally what ends up happening is they got something that they want to pass. They have an agenda that they're trying to support. And they'll say, something like, well, let me add this to your bill, and then, we'll both vote for it. And I'll get all my, constituents to vote for it, and you'll get all your, and then we'll pass the bill. But now, if that thing on that bill that has been added is something that I don't really agree with or something that I don't like, then now I feel like I've compromised at that point. Now I think there's to your point, I think there's ways around it. I think it really boils down to really good leadership. People who can actually just speak to, I think, the facts of things. Why things are important. I really think that, unfortunately, politics has a lot of money involved with it, attached to it, which corrupts it. There's a scripture that that comes to mind. The love of money is the root of all evil. So I think, a lot of things that we deal with, and when Dion comes on, we're going to talk about the what happened in Nashville this week. I can't help but think that money has something to do with, why it's so hard to, I'm not looking, okay, let me put my political hat on.
Yeah, help us.
I'm not looking, like, personally, I wouldn't be looking to ban all guns. You know what I mean? I understand that, there are certain people that feel like they need to have a gun, and, That's their right and their human right. What I don't agree with, and this is again my political, is I don't think we need semi-automatic weapons. I don't think the normal layman needs that. Something that can, really do the type of damage that we've been seeing happen over the last couple of years in these mass shootings. And then I don't think, I think we need to be very critical on who we give a gun to, even a handgun. I think, as people, we have to have some wisdom. Putting a gun in someone's hand that is depressed or suicidal or, really struggling with mental concerns. I'll take this off real quick. Spiritual concerns, people who, I think there needs to be a way to kind of understand, who we're handing these guns to, and
the difficulty in that is trying to evaluate who to give the guns to or not to. Let's say if they do like a mental test, or I don't even know what kind of test that they would put out there to say, no, they shouldn't have, or what kind of, what type of testing would be, fair across the board. What kind of questions, like what would the test involve? What would the questions involve? So I think it would be difficult for us to even do that. But to your point, I don't think a regular person needs a semi-automatic. We don't need those type of guns on the street that can do so much damage so quickly. Like a handgun, I'm with you. People have carried handguns, since they were invented. And if you feel comfortable, and then people have guns, some do it for sport. They're not trying to hurt anybody. Some people do, they're hunters, they do it for sport, they gun collectors, and they're not going to hurt anybody with their guns. So like to your point, I don't think banning guns is the answer either, but I do think some type of regulation on semi-automatics and guns that can shoot down, be so powerful. I do have a question. Why does a layperson need a gun that powerful? So I'm with you on that. I just think it'd be kind of difficult to even test who we would give even the handguns to. I don't know what type of mental evaluation that would be appropriate and say they're okay or not. I wouldn't know how that would be fair. The way our world is governed, how it wouldn't be biased. So I wouldn't know how that would actually look, but I do think it needs to be some regulation, to your point, like you're saying, but I wouldn't know how that would look if we, took into consideration, like a criminal record. I get that. Okay, they got a criminal record, you're not getting the gun. That's easy because you already got the criminal record. But I don't know about any other tests that they could do and be fair and not be biased against a particular culture, race, creed, without saying, oh, no, they can't. So I'm not sure how that would look, in real time.
Right. So, I definitely want to talk more about this when Mr. Dynamite gets on, because I think, his, and just knowing him, he's a gun man. So, I think he has, some different thoughts about that. So definitely want to have a deeper conversation about that. I have some thoughts that, I hope that, hopefully our government will start to consider when it comes to, different things like that. So, I'm gonna reserve that for our conversation there. And then, I'm gonna take the hat off for a second. If you're just joining us, when I put this hat on, I'm talking my political thoughts and beliefs. When I take this hat off, I want to talk, from a kingdom mindset. Like what is God, what is God's heart about, whatever we're talking about there. And so, the other thing that we'll talk about once Dion gets on it, what, Simon, maybe that's what we can, lead into is, as Christians, when mass shootings and things like this happen, today when I was preparing for this show, and I don't know if you've seen this, this was the first time I got to see a picture of the victims of that mass shooting. So, these are the 6 people that passed, because of this. And so, my heart goes out to them and their family. It's just, it was heartbreaking just to even see, their faces here, and see these 3 little kids here. The older people, up here. It's just I think I'm so tired of seeing the loss here. So it's the 6 people that we're seeing here. The actual shooter was unalived during this situation. So that's a total of 7 lives that were lost. 7 families that were lost. And when I think about us as Christians, and I'll let you kick us off, Sonia. Like what actually, outside of politics, outside of guns, outside of, the outrage of this, what is it really? Well, before you answer this, let me tell you what I'm hearing some Christians do, right? I'm hearing some Christians tie this to the politics, right? What do I mean by that? So the young lady who did this crime was transgender. She Mr. Dynamite is on. What's up, Mr. Dynamite? How you doing?
What's going on?
Right on time, man.
Right on time.
We are getting into this conversation about the Nashville mass shooting. And I kind of really wanted you to be a part of it because I think it's going to go, into some gun control conversation, man. And I know you got some different thoughts about that. So I want to make sure that we got all sides represented. What I was about to say, Dion, right? So as Christians, so I got my hat off. I'm talking Christians, right? So
okay.
Some of the views that I've heard this week about this shooting, and again, I'm gonna, I know I've heard some of the prayers. Definitely as Christians, we should be engaged in prayer. We should be engaged in support. We have families out there that are hurting, crying, missing their loved ones. But I think the thing that kind of bothered me the most was really turning this to what I think is, again, a political conversation of, because the young lady was transgender or claimed to be transgender, making it about, a competition between, it being a Christian school and a transgender person, attacking that particular school. Now, at this point, and I haven't heard per se exactly why she did what she did. I know that the assumption is that she did what she did because of maybe some backlash or pushback into her choice of lifestyle or whatever. But again, that's not confirmed. We don't, I don't really know that for sure.
I thought it was actually a man. They thought it was a lady. I thought it was a transgender. I thought they said
she was born a lady, but was transing into
I wasn't sure.
Male.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Trying to make a transition into a male.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And so, Marshall W. Gordon, let me put what he says here. He says, to me, the problem isn't guns. The problem is people under 36 listening to rap and hip hop. Okay.
Marshall,
we're going to go there, Marshall.
That's what you're going to do?
We're going to go there.
You're going to put it on the shoulders of hip hop? You don't think? Because the shooters are normally people of, a lighter origin, and they don't listen to rap. They listen to rock and roll. Just food for thought.
Biggie, they don't listen to Biggie?
No, they listen to Megadeth and all that, you know what I'm saying? And Slipknot and all them kind of people. Rage Against the Machine.
But here's what I would say. That is one of the things that, I've heard. And, to be honest with you, I think as Christians, and so we're kind of jumping ahead with this, I do think that it's a people issue, right? I don't think it's all guns, but I think whenever you have situations like this, there's a people issue involved. And as a Christian, our Bible tells us we don't deal with flesh and blood. We deal with principalities. So there's a spiritual aspect to this as well, right? As a Christian, right? It's definitely something for us to consider there. But the other thing that I'm hearing from Christians, or the main thing that I'm hearing from Christians, is that this happened because she was transgender. This was an attack on a Christian school. And, Dion, you kind of pointed out something that I was thinking when I heard that. And what it was is that we've had a lot of mass shootings lately. We live in Texas, or some of us live in Texas still. I'm not gonna say any names, but we live in Texas, and we've unfortunately had this happen so close to home, right? And the shooters weren't transgender. You know what I mean?
Nor were they African American.
They weren't African American. So it's really, what I think as Christians we have to be concerned with is the people and the families that are hurt with this, right? I think that's number one, and I think as Christians we're good with that, right? The thing that I think we miss on it though is, how does this person, lead up to this? I've heard stories that she was in counseling, with the principal, and again, more assumptions that I'm hearing is that maybe, she didn't like what the counselor was saying. Maybe he was condemning, her lifestyle or something like that, because it seemed like he was targeting him and one of the little girls that passed in this incident was his child. So there's a theory that she was, specifically looking for them, and it could be because of his talk about her lifestyle. But one of the things, and I pose this question to our listeners. I want to pose this question to you two, as Christians. What's the real root here? Like, what's the real thing that would cause someone to pick up a weapon and want to go to any school, and in this case a Christian school, and do this level of evil?
Yeah, evil is definitely at the center of it all, and it has absolutely nothing to do with their race or sexual orientation or none of that, man. It's really, at the end of the day, just pure evil. Because if you look at this shooting and so many of the other shootings, evil is at the core of it all. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. And it's not about the person. That person is just the vessel that ended up doing that. You know what I'm saying? They're just a pawn in the whole situation that is used to carry out this plot and this plan of the enemy. So I think we get so caught up a lot of times in what race they are, what gender they are, or whatever, and all these other 99 different things or whatever, when they don't have nothing to do with that. Because just like God is able to use anybody, the enemy can, run up on anybody and use them at will as well. And so we have to be mindful of that, and just, understand that, when these kind of things happen, that at the end of the day is what it's all about. They may have a affiliation with a specific group or whatever the case may be, and that may be some of it, but at the end of the day, where it all comes from, regardless if that idea is put into their head by the devil himself or by someone in the group or faction that they represent, it's still an idea that was planted, and it still came from ultimately the pits of hell. So that's what I say.
Yeah, and I think it's like that scripture. I think, Sean, I'm not sure if you mentioned it today, but we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and high places. It's like, it's not that, like Dion was saying, no matter what form it came out in the natural, the root of it is a principality. We wrestling against spiritual warfare, and people's minds. It's a battlefield. The battleground is the mind. and the enemy's after your mind, God is after your mind. No matter how it turns out in the natural, like Dion said, it is evil and it's the enemy behind it, and we got to fight it in the spirit. We're not fighting people, because people carry out the orders, but that's not where they originate. That's just a symptom. The person is a symptom, but the fight is in the spirit, and fighting over territories and fighting over, that's why we as Christians, wherever you live, we have to command, our atmosphere and our space. God, cover our regions, cover our families, cover us, and spreading the gospel is so important, because now, like my nephew was telling me, he said, Auntie, a lot of young people, they don't know their Bible. They don't know nothing about the Bible. They don't know a book in the Bible. They don't know anything. And he said, the more you get away from God, the more evil is going to infiltrate our society. And when you don't have no moral compass, or you don't have a baseline to what's right and what's wrong, everything goes.
Right.
And if you don't have no God root and no God foundation, it's like, what are you going to do when these forces infiltrate your mind, or somebody else tell you to do it, no matter how it gets done? Let's say it's politically motivated. Let's just say they got whatever agendas, and they putting guns into these people's hands and politically telling them, now you go do this or you go do that, or threaten them. No matter how it's coming about, the bottom line is we are fighting a spirit war. No matter how it shows up, that's where the real fight is at.
Yeah.
Sexuality, orientation, that's bottom of it. But the top of it is, what are we fighting in the spirit? That's the real battle.
Yeah. And I think if it is a spiritual thing, right? So it's not just as black and white as this is a transgender woman who is against Christians and wanted to just come to a Christian school. For me, it had to start before then. It started with her feeling the need to be in that lifestyle, right? So what caused that? And in her being in that lifestyle, and again, I don't got my political hat on, but I feel like as Christians, and I'm guilty of this, definitely in my younger age, the way we approach people who are in that sin, we really put them on a defense. Now, on the other avenue, I think that, from the letter community, as Dion likes to call them, I think we get a lot of backlash and a lot of, unjust, wanting us, to, like what you brought up, to compromise our moral beliefs and what we think about and how we feel about. Again, I'll call somebody their name, but you're not going to get me to think any differently than what I see, So I purposely would not offend anybody because they feel like they're a man. If they look like a woman, I'm going to say ma'am, and I'm going to say sir if you look like a man. And I'll tell y'all a story. I was at work one time, and we had a temp come in, and they were working in the recycling area of the warehouse. And one thing that I did as a leader is I always walk around and say good morning to everybody, right? So if we had some new temps or whatever, I knew about it because I was going to go, introduce myself and say not hi to them. And so I go back into the warehouse, and there's a new temp there, and their back is turned to me. And I just walk up and I say, hey, how you doing, sir? And a lady turns around, and I'm like, oh. And at first I didn't notice, but everybody started laughing, and I was like, oh, she's actually a lady, And it was this awkward moment. But again, she didn't react in any crazy way. I mean, because I think she knew the way she was dressed and what she was going for, whatever. That confusion could actually be there, right? And then my reaction to her, I didn't make her feel any type of way. Yes, I'm a Christian, but am I supposed to, at this particular point, yell out or treat her a certain type of way because of whatever she's doing? And I see us doing that. I see us, really kind of putting up that barrier. sometimes when it comes to stuff like that, to where it closes down and shuts down the opportunity for us to build a relationship, build trust with this person, and really allow the Spirit of God that's inside of us to shine through and be a witness or be a testimony to that person sometimes.
Oh yeah, definitely. Love can change people. It penetrates people's hearts and it lets them know that you love them. Like most of the stuff, now we focus on outside stuff. Like we'll say a man, a woman, transgender, this and that and that. But we got way more issues on the inside than they wearing clothes on the outside. If we just come on with it, right. In the church body, the issues run way deeper than your sexual orientation. Like you have hate, you got lust, you got, mistreating folks, you just doing anything. So if we would just love people, no matter who they were, no matter what they look like, because why is it easier if it's a man or a woman? You'd be like, oh, they okay if they look or dress like a man or woman, but not okay if you got other sin. As long as I can't see the sin, it seems like we okay with it. As long as you don't put it in my face, it's all good. If I see it, then I got to jump on it. But the truth is, everybody you run into got something. So if you just love it and not focus on the something you can see, because the most of the people got the something you can't see. So if we just love people, we'll just do a lot better with the whole society. Just loving people, just being yourself. And the first one you have to deal with is the one in the mirror. If you can calm down with you, love you, accept you for who God made you, you would do a lot better with other people. Because
shucky ducky
it's
now.
The truth. It's like you look in the mirror, because you got some. When I look in the mirror, I'm working on me all the time when stuff come up. I'm like, God, I need work. So everybody in the world need work. So why can't we just love people? Because we all got to be worked on. Even if I can see yours and you can't necessarily see mine, we just love them all.
Right. I was just going to say, if I approach you, my first inclination is to call you what I can see you as. And if you say, well, no, I'm not this, I'm that. And I'm like, okay, cool, I can go from there. But I don't know just walking up on you what to call you, you know what I'm saying? And just like you, their back was turned and, from that appearance, you called what you saw. And so I think we have to get out of that mindset of walking on eggshells, because many years in sales and customer service, I've learned that, if people can, sometimes they play on that, and it's like they wait on you to slip up. When you slip up, they pounce on you, you know what I'm saying? Just kind of, verbally beat you up sometimes. And so, if you come at people with confidence and this is what I see and this is how I feel about the situation or whatever, then they're more able to understand where you're coming from than, if you're tentative about it. So keep doing what you're doing.
Hey, Marshall, I thank you for joining us, man, and staying a part of the conversation. I wanted to address something. I just saw, a couple of messages that I see here. He said, why can't you trust or just act normal? Don't even give them your love. Just act normal, because the Bible says your righteousness is filthy rags. Hey, Marshall, 140% agree with you. I definitely realize that, my righteousness is nothing but filthy rags. The only good thing about me is my connection to Jesus Christ, my acceptance of Jesus Christ and his blood over me, right? But that's kind of what my point is, right? When I say give love, love to me is unconditional, right? It's not based off of this person doing something for me or being, personally who I accept or would not accept, in this flesh. I mean, all of us have a personal preference. I remember being a young man in my 20s, man, and people talk about, people tripping on homosexual people, the letter community. As calm and as delightful as I am, when I was young, that was something that was really, it was like a trigger for me, right? If they said something, if they did something around me, or they spoke to me, it was the one time that I think I would act out of my character. And I remember God kind of dealing with me on that because, to Sonia's point earlier, he basically put a mirror in front of me. You know, in that time, here I am, and I'm just being transparent. I had a child out of wedlock by this time. I wasn't married to my girlfriend at the time, but my first son was already born. That's a sin. Like, who am I to judge this sin because I don't personally like this sin harsher than I would even, look at myself. And then God kind of, took me through a whole bunch of things. I remember being at work and, when you work in a call center, sometimes when they bring in new people, they make the new people kind of sit next to you. And I mean, I think it was like a week or two later after me and Guy having this conversation, he brought a new person in, and it was a man who, like the other men in the cubicle. When I tell you the cubicle I'm not big enough for me, but both of us had to sit in this cubicle all day, and I was like, God, this ain't funny. This ain't funny. But when I think back, this actually was the first time, God kind of put me in a position where I had to get to know this person. You know what I mean? And by the time I left that job, like we were cool. Now, again, I think people think because you don't go around yelling and saying, hey, this sin is wrong, that you're affirming or you're agreeing with that. I disagree with that. I think that, he knew exactly where I stood in my belief with that. The other people that I've met that are in that persuasion, they know exactly where I stand with that. And, I think we have respect enough for us to respect each other's differences, right? And differences in beliefs. And honestly, I got enough to worry about on myself. God is working on enough in me to where I have to trust that the same work that God is taking me through and the same process he's taking me through, if just introducing this person to Christ and, for me, being a light, like letting the spirit of him shine bigger than my flesh and what my mind or what my thoughts or my feelings are about the situation, letting that shine be bigger than our flesh. The Bible tells us to put our flesh to death daily. Like it's, we got to put us down so that he can be great in our lives and be great around us. And that's one of the things that, I would say, like, so not where we're giving our type of love or giving our love. I do think it's being normal. Like, and I think that's a great observation. Like that's the whole point. Like I shouldn't be different. I shouldn't have to be different because this person has a different sin than me. I can still be who God has made me and making me to be around anybody. And I think that's maturity in Christ.
Yeah, who you are comes out in your pores. Like you don't have to say you love people or don't love people or mean or cold. It comes out. Who you are, because we spirit beings, we live in a flesh body, but we're spirit beings. People know who you are. Like you have a reputation. Every one of us, if you go to their job, they have a reputation. Even if you don't want that reputation, you just have it. And for me, I am what I am Monday, Sunday, Friday, Thursday. Like I really love people. When I say that, I like to see people do good. Like genuinely, if you got a problem, I'm going to try to help you. I genuinely want to see, because if you make it, we all make it. When one goes down, right. I feel like we tied together in a weird way where we all hurt. When one's not doing the best in a strange way, it's like all of us hurt when one hurts. And I can tell you that people know here, I did a show in Indiana. They flew me in. This little white lady came up to me after the show was over. She said, man, you love us. And I said, you never said it on stage, but I could feel it. When you talk to us, your energy, the way you look, you love us. You never said those words, but I could tell you did. And it's the truth. It comes out even if you try to hide it. I don't care who you are, good, bad, in between. People know you by whatever you have on the inside of you. It can be felt on the outside. It's an aura that you carry around you. I didn't have no Bible. I was doing comedy, I think. I was entertaining them. So it wasn't as if I was up there talking about the Bible or talking about the word. I was making jokes about, whatever, comedians do. And so my point is, if you just be yourself and you be who you're going to be, people know who you are. They can feel it. They can feel when you love them. They can feel you don't want to be bothered, feel when you ain't. They can just feel who the depths of you comes out, even if you don't want it to. So you don't really, you just be yourself. When I go around, I don't worry about somebody straight, gay, lying, stealing, cunning. I don't worry about none of that. But like, hey, how you doing today? They could be doing all that. That's not my business. God, they belong to him. I don't have no heaven, no hell to put anybody in. I'm trying to stay out of one of them myself, I'm trying to do me, make sure you got your heart right. Make sure you love right. Forgive when people hurt you. Don't be easily offended when stuff come up. I'm trying to, dust stuff off of me that got on me and the cares of life as you go through life. So I'm trying to be all I can be. So I can't be worried about what everybody else trying to be. It's hard enough, I'm balancing me and my, mental stability and capability and just trying to be, even keeled in a harsh world. Because the world it's harsh. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's a lot of stuff that can make your love wax cold. But I think if you work at it, you have a daily relationship with God, I think it makes a difference in how you respond to the cares of life. And who you are. You don't have to, you don't have to act like you're loved. You don't have to act like you saved. You don't have to act like, you just be yourself. Who you are going to come out anyway. Just be yourself. I just love God because he loved me. He see about me. He take care of me. It's not a chore for me to speak to anybody. It's not a chore to be, hey, how you doing? All right then. I don't care what they got on, dress, skirt, pants, jeans, whatever. How you doing today? You a person beyond all of your sin. You a person beyond anything else that I see. At the core of you, you a person that deserves respect and, love. You just deserve respect.
And I want to add to that real quick. And then I'm going to put my political hat on so maybe I can talk about guns. The other thing that I think I was inspired by what you were saying is, that daily relationship with God, and the closer I think you get with God, you start seeing people differently, right? So just like I was saying earlier, like, when I see someone and they might be struggling with sin or something like that, or struggling with something outward that everyone sees, my heart and my thought doesn't go to whatever that outward sin is. I might have like an internal prayer. I might be like, man, what happened? What led to this? I start looking at things a little bit different. I start praying for them instead of, reacting to whatever, they have going on at that particular time. You know what I mean? Because, again, when you really look at like, this is what God is doing in my life, right? Every day he's letting me spend time with him and we're getting to, he knows me, but I'm getting to know him and getting to know him, he's letting me know more about myself that I didn't even know. You know what I mean? And so, your heart, I think, starts changing to where you start thinking about people differently, right? You know what I mean? Like wondering, understanding that they might be going through some type of hurt, went through some type of trauma, went through some type of pain. And now on earth, you can start praying and injecting and asking God to walk into that situation and heal something and do something that you don't even know what needs to happen. You just know that God's the answer, that the Jesus Christ that you have in you is the answer for that person. So, it just starts, I think, allows you to be more empathetic with people. It allows you to be more compassionate with people, even if they're people that mean you harm, or you just start looking at things a little bit differently. And that's me personally. That's what I think has started to happen more and more with me as I see people, which keeps me from being so judgmental, which keeps me from being so defensive or putting people in a defensive posture, with conversation.
Whatever, we've had just regular handguns, but as we see these home invasions, how they picked up and what people are coming into your house with, you know, you have to level that playing field in such a way that it puts you able to, you know, ward off some of these people